Alright, we are on the draw in match 1 of this league with RUG Delver. This hand looks nice. I don't love it, but it looks nice. We're gonna keep. We have a big Goyf. We have 2 lands. We have a pseudo cantrip in the form of Mishra's Bauble, some removal. It looks like we're playing against Affinity. I'm gonna say Memnite, Welding Jar, Mox Opal confirms that. What do we got? Turn 1 Ravager. That's not bad. That is a-okay, opponent. How are we going to beat turn 1 Ravager? Besides hoping they just don't have much? I guess we can go turn 1 Tarfire, turn 2 Roast. That's a start. I think we're actually going to start by using one of these baubles, because I feel like we're going to need more than 2 pieces of removal. So let's go look for one. What do we got, Bauble? It's a Serum Visions. I don't want that. I like that a lot, but I don't want that. Turn 2, we're either casting Roast or Goyf. We are not casting Serum Visions. So let's get rid of that. We're going to grab a Stomping Ground. Our opponent's probably going to assume we're on Jund Death Shadow or something like that. We're going to pay shock because I want to Tarfire at some point. If we Tarfire now, they could sack 2 artifacts, probably these 2, or just sack the Welding Jar to save the Ravager. I don't think they would go all in on the Memnite right now, even if it's just sack Welding Jar, sack Ravager, go on Memnite. Maybe sack Ravager, go on Memnite, but even that's kind of bad. Ravager is a very good card. The versatility it offers, I think, is worth it for the opponent to give up the Welding Jar or the Memnite. I also think we're going to go to their turn to get a little more information out of them. Find out what their turn 2 play is before we go for this Tarfire. Even if they have another artifact, unless it is Darksteel Citadel, we can respond to it. Which means we can still go for the Tarfire on the Ravager while the artifact's on the stack. Plus we get to draw a card this way. Then again, even if we have a Lightning Bolt, we're probably using Tarfire on the Ravager. Not many red instants in our deck that are functionally different than Tarfire. Actually, I am something like 99% sure that the only red instants in this deck are named Lightning Bolt and Tarfire, so we're not really expecting something else to draw here, and we definitely don't have green instants. Sometimes I play Simic Charm. Not really relevant when you have exactly 1 land in play. It's also not that great against Affinity, given that they're a really fast deck. Bounce spells aren't the worst against them because of cards like Arcbound Ravager. They go to put all their counters on something, you bounce it. Good way of countering the Ravager. Not bad, really, not bad. Costing 2 mana kinda sucks. And they're a fast aggro deck, so they can pressure you pretty well. We drew Island. No, we didn't. I lied. That was already in our hand. We drew the Foothills. They passed priority, and I assumed we drew a card. What do you got, opponent? We did let our opponent draw a card there, so it's a little risky to a point, but I mean, they're going to draw a Darksteel Citadel. What are you going to do? We're going to take this damage, because I don't want to get got by Arcbound Ravager combat math. Well, not really combat math, just combat tricks. We go to Tarfire, they know Ravager's going to die, or they accept that Ravager's going to die, so they put counters on the Memnite, which I guess isn't the worst, but I don't want to take any more damage than we have to. I am totally fine with end step Tarfire. What do we got? It's a Plating. We are going to try to kill, well, actually, yeah, Ravager is worth more than Memnite. I was considering taking out the Memnite just because Plating and Ravager are very similar cards. They operate on the same axis, number of artifacts effectively, whereas Cranial Plating works with the threat being destroyed repeatedly. If they have a bunch of Inkmoth Nexi or something like that, you're going to have to go through a lot of removal spells if you don't have artifact destruction for the plating itself, whereas Arcbound Ravager gets to do funky things like this spot right here where they sack Memnite. Maybe they're going to sack Welding Jar. They sacked the Mox Opal. And they didn't have a land for the turn. That is interesting. They can still give up the Welding Jar to keep Ravager healthy, but I'm not sure why they did that. Goyf might not be able to block this well. They might not be able to put plating on Ravager. They would need to draw a land. They didn't play a land that turn. I think we're just slamming Tarmogoyf here. Do we want to play the Bauble to scry? Do we want to theoretically play the Bauble to see what they're going to draw? If they draw a land, does that affect my decision to play Goyf? Going for the roast here isn't that good, since they could just sacrifice the Welding Jar, not to the Ravager, but to its own ability. They only have these two artifacts, so they cannot get Ravager to survive a roast. Playing against Affinity is so much fun. There is so much math involved. I think if I was going to play an aggro or combo deck, it would have to be Affinity. They have so many lines. Okay. We go for the roast. They sack Welding Jar. They only have 2 artifacts. If they find a land, even if it's not Darksteel Citadel, they have 3 artifacts they can equip. This becomes a 6/6. That's a bad time for us. Then again, they have the Welding Jar anyway, so it's not like we missed the window on roast. I think I'm just going to bobble myself before deciding which land to play. Don't really care so much about what the opponent draws as far as what card I'm playing, because I think Tarmogoyf is going to be far superior to Hold Up Spell Snare. So I'm a lot more interested in card selection here, fetching to shuffle away bad cards, than I am however much information I'm going to get about the opponent's draws. We're going to draw a Mana Leak. That's not good. I think I want a basic mountain. I definitely don't want a shock because Affinity does a lot of damage. And double red is probably a lot better than double green. So let's grab that basic mountain. Doing work here. At least I think it's doing work. Let's play Tarmogoyf. 5/6 ho! Tarfire and Mishra's Bauble are great cards. Breeding Pool, sure. We're probably not going to play that for a while. Our next land is likely that island. Here's a Vault Scourge. That's annoying. Can't roast that. That's oh dear, and they can sack the Ravager, put counters on the Vault Scourge. Okay. We need to engineer a board state in which we go roast the Ravager, traverse, find Snapcaster Mage, snap Tarfire, maybe snap roast. I'm really concerned with them putting Ravager tokens on this guy, because you cannot roast a creature with flying, and our other burn spells, not good enough. We probably have to clock in here, which is really unfortunate. I'm hoping they don't find a land, because if they can't plating, we're in a maybe decent okay spot. Our main decision point, I think, is holding up these counters or going for traverse. I almost certainly want to roast. I also probably want to attack. This has 3 counters. They could sacrifice 1, 2, make it 5. Put it on this. This becomes a 6/6. Then attacking is very bad. Not attacking, also not much better, but hey, what are you going to do? So they can make a 6/6 Vault Scourge. I don't have bounce in this list, so that would basically be the end of us. We're not beating a 6/6 flying lifelink. Then again, the opponent doesn't know we don't have bounce. And they also don't know we don't have a lightning bolt in hand. So I think we're going to do this. Give up the counter magic. And if they play around our stuff, we can traverse. If they play around lightning bolt. They're just going for that line, which makes me happy. Okay. Now we're going to traverse out a Snapcaster Mage. Oh, sorcery hit the bin. Good. Good, good, good. We're going to swing. Get our damage in. We're not winning the long game. Although we can traverse something. So maybe we're going to get a Snapcaster Mage. Maybe we do win the long game. Snapcaster Mage. Yes. Second Tarmogoyf actually is really tempting. I think I'd rather have the Snapcaster Mage, though, especially since we can snap roast next turn if we need to. Then again, we're taking 2 to do that. Do we attack here? We hit the opponent for 6. They untap. We're taking at least 4 if they find a land it's considerably more, and they get good lifelink. I think I want to attack since they get the lifelink regardlessly. Plus, if we don't do anything, they just sack the Ravager, go all in on the Vault Scourge, and we have a bad time. I'm very glad that they went for sacking the Welding Jar to itself. Cranial Plating's ability costs 1 mana. I'm bad at magic. These are things we recently learned. Alright. How are we going to avoid dying? I don't think we are. I believe we lost. Cards that deal with Vault Scourge. We need 2 bolt effects because of the Ravager. We only have access to 1 thanks to Snapcaster Mage, so we need to hope that we draw another Lightning Bolt. I believe that means we're going to play Breeding Pool tapped, go for the Scour, hope to find a burn spell sooner rather than later. We unfortunately can't swing with Tarmogoyf. If they just sack the Ravager to this, that's fine, because we're going to hold... I want to hold up Snap Tarfire. We're going to play this tapped. And we're not going to swing. We're probably going to take 4 and be miserable. But we're going to do it anyways. If we attack, we're dead. Because they just swing with both. We go to Tarfire, the Vault Scourge. They put the counters on it. It survives. We take 7. We're kaput. If we don't attack, though, we can block the Ravager. Which is very important, because I don't think the opponent's going to go all in on that Vault Scourge. No. We're going to play a game of chicken here. Where we don't want to go after the Vault Scourge, because it's going to get too big. But the opponent doesn't want to grow the Vault Scourge, because that's the window where we can actually kill it. Let's do this. They might grow it here, since we don't have Snap Bolt available. They didn't. We're hoping to draw the burn spell. We did not find it. What ways do we have of surviving? We don't. Snap, Traverse, Finds, it doesn't matter. Snap, Scour, can't get us 2 spells. We are dead. I think we're going to scoop. We could Snap, Scour them, but they're on Affinity. Affinity doesn't have that much stuff. I guess we could just make them have it. We'll go for the Snap Tarfire play. They'll put the counters on the Vault Scourge, and then we will scoop. Not before. Give them the chance to screw up. Turn 1 Ravager is a really good start for Affinity, and on the play. That saddens me. They found the second land. Maybe if I remembered Cranial Plating only required 1 mana, I would have played that differently, and maybe we would have come out alive. I don't know. I'm not sure we actually had a way of winning against this with what we had. Vault Scourge is really good. Then again, people don't play bad cards, so what do you expect? Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating, Vault Scourge. Very powerful. This allowed them to grow it. Oh, well actually, you know what? If we're going to play that game opponent, as long as we're showing off, I'm not sure we should actually show them the Stubborn Denial as far as an information standpoint goes, but it's kind of stock in Delver lists, at least the RUG ones, if they follow that at all. And I'm pretty sure I bored out a non-zero amount of them anyways, so... Plus, we're having fun here. We may as well have fun. Given how long the opponent's spending with Denial on the stack, I'm going to assume that they aren't familiar with the card. While we wait, I'm going to acquaint myself with my Affinity sideboard plan. Oh, they're going for it. They sacked what? I'm not sure. They sacked the plating. Why did they do that? That's why they did that. Okay, that was just for completeness sake. Alright. Yeah, we dead. We don't need... I like counter magic, so let's have that happen. If only we found that bolt. Still would have been good. The opponent would have had so little going on if we had a bolt. Anyways, to the sideboard. Can't win them all. Artifact Hate. Who would have thought that would come in? Ancient Grudge, Destructive Revelry. Really good cards. Have your Arcbound Ravager save your dude from that. Ceremonious Rejection, very powerful. 1 mana. Counters most things in their deck. Doesn't hit Master of Ethereum. That's the blue one. Or Galvanic Blast, as we just saw, but that's fine. It hits pretty much everything else. Anger of the Gods. I actually haven't played Anger of the Gods against Affinity yet, I don't believe. But I do like Pyroclasm against them. And Sweepers are good. I like Sweepers against Affinity. You wouldn't have thought from that game, but generally they're very powerful. EE on 0 sometimes cuts them off of mana. EE on 2 hits a lot of their payoff cards. Although you're not really looking to hit a Ravager with EE on 2 since Ravager is good at surviving. Basilisk Collar, I don't think I've played against Affinity yet, but it stands to reason that Lifelink is very good, and I kind of like Death Touch a lot. Huntmaster, one of my favorites. Let's see what we're taking out. 2 denials, I called it. Then again, I made this list, so the spreadsheet, so I imagine I would have an idea as to what's on it. Mana Leak's just a bit slow. I'll be honest, I like countering an Arcbound Ravager or a Cranial Plating as much as the next guy. But you know what? Those games where it's stuck in your hand, those feel really bad. Thought Scour's gonna come out because, well, we plan on interacting a lot. If we don't, we're gonna die. So, let's plan to interact. Curious Obsession, we're probably going to be on the back foot most of the time. Nux, probably just a little slow. And 1 Mandrills. We're boarding in a couple creatures anyways, and they will close the game sooner or later. 14 creatures is probably fine. Don't know if I'd like going below. I have lost matches to Affinity where I just did not find a second or third threat after I think they Galvanic blasted a Delver or something. We're going to be on the play. What do we got? Spreading Seas, by the way, comes in as a nice answer to Manlands. This is not a keep. That hand's bad. That hand is much better. Spell Snare. Very, very nice against turn 1 Ravagers. That forest is actually a very unfortunate land for us to have. I think I'm going to top this, since our top end is actually quite high, and we might just want to go Forked Bolt plus Spell Snare on turn 2. Which, as I was alluding to with mentioning that Forest was a very bad land for this hand, Forest doesn't let you do that. Oh, please be a Forked Bolt hand. Please! Welding Jar does not make this a Forked Bolt hand. Possible I should have denied that Welding Jar. We're going to draw our land. We're not going to slam the Tarmogoyf. I think we're just going to wait here. We have 2 counter spells up if we want them. We probably don't, but we might. We're probably going to play around Blood Moon if we can. Then again, we already have the basic forest, which means we can cast all of our spells that are not blue. And we actually don't have that many blue spells in here post-board. Let's check out the sideboard. We boarded out a bunch of counter spells, some cantrips, and we boarded in Artifact Hate, Sweepers, Huntmaster. Then again, the only creature that came out, we can't counter that with Denial at this point, which is unfortunate. However, this might be a 2 CMC spell. Come on. Arcbound Ravager. No, sir. Do not pass go. Let's get a Steam Vents. Spell Snare is very good against Affinity. Their payoff slot is at 2 mana. Ravager. Steel Overseer, that's its name. Cranial Plating. Signal Pest, probably not going to attack. We probably want to fetch here. We'll ignore Blood Moon. Let's grab another Steam Vents, I think. Yeah, I'd rather have double blue than double green. Like I said, we don't have that many blue cards, but Snap is a consideration. And Traverse into Threat isn't that huge. Anger of the Gods, that's going to be good eventually. We're going to slam Tarmogoyf. Hold up, Stubborn Denial. No need to Forked Bolt the Signal Pest as of yet, especially with that Welding Jar in play. Then again, with the Anger of Gods, we don't actually need the Forked Bolt to do that much work. Anger of the Gods, another very good reason to not get a basic island and not play around Blood Moon as much as we could have. I forgot how much I enjoy this game. This is great. Probably because we're playing against Affinity. If my first match after 2 weeks was Lantern Control or Hollow One, I would likely be singing a much different tune. Opponent has mana cranial plating. What's all this then? Also, our answers are kind of lining up beautifully, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a good time. Dismember, we are going to hold on to, because that card is an instant, and with the Arcbound Ravagers of the world, instants are at a premium against Affinity. I'm interested in them not using the Welding Jar there. Then again, maybe they're hoping they can stick an Overseer or something. Signal Pest probably not that valuable. I guess that makes sense. I'm still a little surprised. Memnite's fine. That might be chumping Goyf. We're definitely not burning a removal spell on that. Drawing Lightning Bolt makes me think maybe we should burn a removal spell on it. I think we're just going to swing, though. The opponent has 1 card. I have 3 removal spells in hand. We're in a good spot, even if they have a Memnite. Even if they chump and get to draw an extra card, that's fine. They drew a Citadel, which sucks for them, probably. Ooh, they play the new Karn. That's exciting. Reveal the top 2 cards of your library. I get to choose one. It goes in their hand. The other gets exiled with it. Well, we can't counter this, so we're going to let it happen. Starts on 5. They zeroed it? No, it doesn't have a 0. Does it not have a 0? It starts on 5. There we go. It didn't update. So they -2'd. They are making an artifact that gets +1/+1 for each artifact they control. That's pretty good. That's a 6/6. That's kind of big. Can we anger and deal with this somehow? Not really. We need another land for that. Now, Welding Jar regenerates. Regeneration does not save you from having 0 toughness, so we're going to go ahead and bolt this Memnite. This is now a 5/5, which means we can dismember and kill this. Do I want to do that right away? They could 0 this again, but Goyf is a 5/6, so I'm not that concerned. I think I'm just going to use my mana here. Just in case we draw something like, I don't know, Snapcaster Mage. That's going to shrink. Wonderful. Mountain. We don't have a need to play that yet, so I'm going to hold on to it. They are out of cards, so I think I just kill this. They -2 it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it an artifact? It is, so it's going to be a 5/5. I think we're just going to kill Karn. That seems to be the safer route. Affinity doesn't have great top decks when it has this for a board. Karn's a very good one. Ravager on this board, I guess, is okay because of the Citadels, but this is a 6/7 now. Notably, I didn't account for the Planeswalker in the graveyard when deciding to attack Karn, but that is a big deal. Becoming a 6/7 does change our clock if we find a Snapcaster Mage or another Bolt. Traverse won't do it because we only have 3 card types in the bin. Land, instant, sorcery. Affinity doesn't interact much. The non-interactive decks, it's quite difficult to get Delirium against. They are not likely to put creatures in your graveyard, which means you need to go outside the 4 main types. Which brings us to Tarfire and Mishra's Bauble. Well, they drew something Hazoret. Okay. That could be trouble. That's indestructible, which means it blocks Goyf forever and ever, amen. Let's start on Visions. How do we beat Hazoret? Delver of Secrets is a start. Yeah, I think that's how we're going to go for it. Can this shock creatures? No, only opponents. That's very good. Let's put this land into play. Not that I care to use it. Don't think we're going to be angering anytime soon. We can't draw the Delver yet, so we're just going to wait. Now the opponent kind of is in a very good spot, because Hazoret was basically the exact card they needed. It means we can't attack with Goyf as long as that's untapped, which is really good for the opponent. Blinkmoth Nexus, also really good. We're going to draw Delver, put it into play, play out this Mishra's Bauble, but we're not going to use it because we know what's on top of our deck. We'll use it on their turn, probably just looking at their top card since we know ours. We will stack the triggers so that Delver sees the visions before we draw it, and that way we get through our cards just a little faster. Vault Scourge coming at us. Okay. Bauble hits the stack first. We're going to take a look at that Visions, let everybody know it's there. They're probably going to block. What do we got? Pyroclasm. Okay. Second Tarmogoyf is exactly what I wanted. No need to play the Flooded Strand. Yep, that animates. It chumps. That's totally fine. Yes, sir. Oh, they can use it on itself. That's clever. Good thing we have that Tarmogoyf coming. Very, very good thing. They're going to draw Vault Scourge. They're going to put it into play, almost certainly. 2 mana, I imagine, will be paid. Oh, it's black. They paid Phyrexian. They could have tapped this Mox Opal. So I'm assuming that card in their hand is being held onto for a reason. 1, 2, 3. Maybe they're holding up Hazoret's activation? That seems to be the case. Now, we still can't profitably swing with this Tarmogoyf. But once we put this Tarmogoyf into play, we can. And I do believe we're going to Pyroclasm this Vault Scourge, just because we may as well. They'll probably pop the Welding Jar. And we'll put the Flooded Strand into play, bluffing that this Anger of the Gods is a bolt or a counter spell, or something of the sort. Alright, head over to the opponent, not attacking because I don't want to see my Goyfs die to a Hazoret. They didn't use the Hazoret activation. Inkmoth is good for them. That comes in, sure. Yup. Actually, we can't profitably Anger since they're going to block at least one Goyf. Tarfire means we may not have to, though. There is not a tribal card yet in the bin. We can do a lot of damage. We swing with both. They are probably going to animate that Inkmoth, and I think we want to kill it. Or we just take out this Vault Scourge and we win imminently. They're going to block with Hazoret. We're going to take 5 on the crackback. This dies to a Tarmogoyf, permanently shrinking a Tarmogoyf, but we can Tarfire this, which means their life gain is gone. Maybe we just hold on to that Tarfire in case they find a Cranial Plating. Then again, if they throw Plating onto Hazoret, we can't deal with it anyways. So I think we're just Tarfiring this. There's no reason to do it right away, though. Just in case they do find a Plating, they probably end up throwing it on the Vault Scourge so we can make them waste their mana, which is something I like. I'm really interested in what their last card is that they keep holding on to. We're also going to try to play a little faster. What do we got here? Is it bad for us? Probably. It's a Hazoret activation, discarding a Springleaf Drum. You got it. They're going to swing with just the Vault Scourge, I imagine. Hazoret probably on blocking duty. Unless their last card is a Galvanic Blast, in which case we're dead. But it wasn't, so we're not. I might Spreading Seas just to draw a card. They're going to block this. They'll take 6. We might draw something really good, so this is probably worth doing. That's our only green source, so let's not waste it. Come on, something good. It's a Tarfire. Well, I asked for something good. I can't really complain about a shock when my opponent goes to 2. Alright, let's see if we can speed it up in game 3. Stubborn denial. Nice. Good on you, opponent. Good on you. That's what they were holding. Cool. I was aware that Affinity sometimes boarded that in. Usually I think they play Spell Pierce. Sometimes they play Denial because of Ravager and Plating. Hazoret also very good for that, clearly. As a fan of Denial, I will not complain. How good is this hand? It is short on removal, but it's also kind of great. We have lands and spells. Cantrips are good. I think this hand is good enough to keep. We're going to play out the Bauble right away, see if we feel like scrying with that fetch land. Slow start out of Affinity on turn 1 on a 7-card hand, which they kept. Ooh, Tarfire is very good. We're going to use that almost certainly right away. I'm assuming the opponent has a very good turn 2 coming. Snapcaster Mage. I like that on 3. Let's do that. We could wait. We could wait. Welding Jar has to get through the stack, so you know what? We're going to wait. The opponent almost certainly knows what we're doing here. We shocked for a red source that isn't blue. Sorry, isn't a blue source. So I don't think it's much of a secret that we have a burn spell that's about to be pointed at that Vault Scourge. But, you know, we gotta go through the motions. You know what? After seeing Stubborn Denial, I shouldn't have done that. Ornithopter, wouldn't be surprised to see an Arcbound Ravager right about now. Maybe a Cranial Plating. Yup. That's still actually a little slow, but I guess they're going for a slower, longer game now. Anger, quite nice. Makes me want to play Goyf instead of Delver. Also makes me want to get a red source sooner rather than later. We're not going to shock just yet, though, in case we draw a shock or the mountain, so we can take slightly less damage off of that. Ravager. Now we might be in trouble. We do have Anger plus Snap Tarfire, so it's not the worst. Certainly not the worst. Can we afford to attack into the Ravager? Steam Vent, see? Sometimes good decisions are made. Not all the time, but sometimes. It's a 1/1. We got 2 artifacts, no mana available to grow this, so they can sack 2, make it a 3/3. They can't save either of these. They can save Ornithopter, but it costs them Plating and Ravager, which means they just let both die and keep plating? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to do it. Goyf survives. That's what matters. Looking like Anger of the Gods is a good card against Affinity. I guess we should expect to hit our 3rd land on turn 3. Maybe not. They sacked Plating. Do they know something I don't? Are they sacking the Ravager? They are. Okay. They're keeping alive a decent-sized Ornithopter. That's fair. Let's give the opponent priority. From my perspective, I think I would rather have the Plating, but of course I don't know the opponent's hand and I don't play Affinity, so I'm going to assume that they know better than I do. For example, with that Signal Pest, we're going to be taking a lot of damage. Echoing Truth. Now that's interesting. Goyf plus Truth? I think it's Goyf plus Truth. Let's swing before we play the land. They don't need to know that we have our 4th land available. That shall remain a very closely guarded secret. Land. Cast a Tarmogoyf. This will probably end up fetching out a basic forest. And now, the opponent has Stubborn Denial up thanks to the Mox Opal. I think I want to hold on to the Echoing Truth, give them a chance to draw it anyways. Let them draw their Denial. We can't snap Tarfire. Sorry, we can snap Tarfire next turn. We cannot snap Anger unless we find another land. If we don't need to Echoing Truth, I might just fetch a land tapped, but I kind of don't like that. I want to get Echoing Truth out of my hand. That's swinging for 2. We bounce it. It's a chump blocker. Echoing Truth cannot bounce Blinkmoth because it's a land. You know what? We probably just bounce that because a 0-2 isn't much of a card, whereas a 2-4 is a lot better, even though we lose this Echoing Truth, because next turn that means we go Snap Tarfire plus Delver. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to untap that Ornithopter for our opponent. Do I want another blue source instead? Probably not. I don't think we need a third blue source. We might see a Stubborn Denial here. I feel like this isn't the place for the opponent to fight us, but it might be. I'm a little reluctant to snap Tarfire just because I don't want to take the tribal out of the graveyard, but we're probably going to end up there anyways. Mountain. Okay. Well, snap Anger means we lose our dude, but on the other hand, it takes care of both of their dudes. Then they just have Blinkmoth to chump. And then they have 2 cards and next to no gas. Or we swing, go for Snap Tarfire, play the Delver. I kind of like that actually even more. Especially because it puts so many bodies on the board. They have to chump at least one of these Goyfs. We get to Tarfire the Signal Pest now. Or we Tarfire them. They cannot Stubborn Denial us. Let's play our land and go for gold. Come on, Tarfire. They scooped. We did it. 2-1 against Affinity. I like playing against Affinity. I know I said that already, but it's true. It's a fun time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.